Hey, Ron Newcomb here with the Indie Coach Podcast. I'm here with my buddy Sean Flanagan, and we are going to be talking filmmaking and whatever else we want to get into. I've got a litany of questions here, but however the conversation takes us, that's how we'll go. So, without further ado, Sean, I just figured we jump right into it, man. Can you tell us a little bit how you got started in your filmmaking journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here. But my background, I went to film school, graduated in May of 2008, which was a super amazing time because I believe by June we were in a strike. So I lived in New York. I kind of bopped around what little independent film I could there and decided to move to Los Angeles, but not wanting to just come here, wanting to be the next Steven Spielberg. I got into film distribution and worked my way up from literally the receptionist at a distribution company to head of distribution. And now I've released over 2,000 films for just about every mini distributor in North America. And I use that as my own foundation as a writer and producer to try to understand the business side of film a little bit better.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot of films, a big library, big portfolio, which is awesome. So I believe you do some consulting, producing, writing. Um, what do you kind of consider yourself more so now? Like, what's your sweet spot? Do you like the true hyphenate and doing it all, or is there something rather that kind of really has your heartstrings?
In my experience, you have to be a multi-hyphenate. Nobody wants to do their job in Hollywood. Everybody's short on money, short on manpower, short on something. So for anybody walking around out there with just a single hat on, it's time to go buy three or four or five or 12 more hats. Um, if I had all the money in the world, we were in the golden age of Hollywood, I would love to be left alone to just write and sit in a corner with my computer. That doesn't really seem to be how things have worked for a long time, and it doesn't seem to be how things are going to be working for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's multi-hyphenate all the way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I produce because I have to. No one's producing my stuff. I feel like one of the best things you can do for your career is to start producing. If you were starting today, where would you start now, and what would you do differently than when you started?
Um, Looking back at the way too many years since I graduated, I think it's been almost 17, 18. Um, my biggest regret is wasting time thinking that I was waiting for the opportunity to strike or for the opportunity to present itself to me. My career only took leaps and bounds forward when I put an objective out into the universe and I put on my horse blinders and I ran full steam ahead at it. Whether that was writing, whether it was getting representation, whether it was producing this movie I'm sure we'll talk about later that I just were in post on. We filmed in January. Every major accomplishment was me waking up one day and saying, I'm going to do this thing come hell or high water, and then not giving up until it had been accomplished.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's no silver platter, there's no golden ticket, there's no lottery system that's going to come save you. You have to do it yourself.
yeah. I completely agree with that sentiment for sure. I think things people like things in motion, and that's when they'll get excited. If you're just talking about a project, you have nothing going, I find it very difficult for people to glom onto that. But when you're in motion and the train is left and you have a target date and you have some capital, then suddenly people are willing to jump in and help. I think you have to have that tenacious zero and end effect.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's literally the train leaving the station. It's nobody wants to board the train and sit there and wait to see what happens. They want to see the smoke coming out. They want to see the wheels starting to turn, and then they want to chase after it. so that when it does leave the station, they could be like, I knew it was going to do this the whole time. That's why I got on board. And it already feels like a win to them.
Yeah, exactly right. Completely agree. I know it's hard to have a an optimistic view at times, but one of the things I'd love to hear from your point of view is who is making the stuff that you love or that you enjoy, and who are you a fan of? Who's kind of doing it right out there? And it could be kind of an old school, it doesn't need to be new and up and comer, just who's doing it right out there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've come to realize in, I would say, the last 5, 6, 7 years is I have way, way, way more appreciation for somebody who swings for the fences and maybe doesn't get it perfect, as opposed to somebody who colors in the lines and runs the middle of the road and does it absolutely correct. So give me that indie movie that's not perfect. You can tell they cut a corner. You could tell something happened behind the scenes, but you can tell that there was a passion and energy, a vision, a belief in themselves, whatever that thing is. So I'm, it's probably not a surprising answer, but I'm very much drawn to the A24s, the neons, sometimes still the Fox Searchlight or the Focus. Some of my favorite movies of the past decade, let's say, are 5 million and under indie movies that just completely destroyed me or inspired me or had me laughing the whole time. So that's like Assassination Nation was fantastic. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, All of Us Strangers. I saw the TV Glow. Um, something that really feels like the writer, director, producer, actor, whatever combination of that team felt like there was a world where they were going to die unless they told this story, as opposed to the 47th generic romantic comedy or action comedy or studio film where you're like, yeah, this is based on IP. I'm sure we'll make money. Let's spend $80 million on this movie and then $300 million marketing it. And you're like, I don't know who this is for. I don't know why you made it. I don't know who approved the script. Um, that being said, there's exceptions. There's the wild robots of the world. There's Sinners, Ryan Coogler, Jordan Peele. Like there are guys who have graduated to a big sandbox, but have been able to manage some sort of creative control. But the more cooks you have in the kitchen, the less fun it's going to be. And I think more and more over the last decade, that started to show in mainstream media.
Yeah, that's a great call out. I really like the way you articulated that. A lot of us are in development, and you've gone through that now a good little bit. In putting the film together, what are some essential things that people can have an action plan around? When you're developing something, what is it that somebody should be thinking about? What are some actionable items that they can take away?
Um, God, that could be a whole hour right there. Uh, the biggest thing I've seen having released so many films is just how many people greenlight, go into production, go into post, whatever, lock picture even. They have no forethought on who they're going to sell it to, what the sale looks like, what the marketing looks like. They did no marketing assets or creation on set. Um, I've had movies that are, going usually just a digital release, but they're coming out, let's say, this Friday. 2 days from now, we're recording on a Wednesday. They'll message me Monday or Tuesday morning and they'll be like, hey, so what do we do about social media? I was like, what do you mean? What do we do? And it's like, well, should we have a Facebook page? I was like, oh, that ship sailed like 9 months ago. The
Yeah.
day you greenlit your film, you should be creating your social media, building awareness, even shoving it down your parents and your aunt and your uncle and your friends and your college roommates and your coworkers' faces, like to pretend that one part of the process doesn't matter because you're the director or just the writer or just the actors. Like the whole thing matters all the time because everybody, especially in the film festival world, you go to a screening, you go to a great screening, and you're like, great, great movie. What's your plan? And like, well, I'm gonna sell it for millions of dollars and Netflix is gonna buy it and I'm gonna win an
Of
Oscar
course.
and then I'm gonna be the next blank. And you're like, okay, cool. So what happens to the 99.99% of people that doesn't happen for?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I don't have a plan B. I'm just gonna be the next Spielberg. And you're like, you're probably not
Yeah.
because there's already a line around the block of qualified people that are going to be the next Spielberg.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you just have to think. I mean, I think maybe because of my distribution background, I don't even start writing page one of final draft. I open a new document. I'm thinking, what is the possible budget here? What is the path towards actually selling it or producing it? Who might buy it? Are people even buying this type of movie right now? I've had ideas that I was passionate about, and I talked to my managers, and they're like, yeah, nobody's buying contemporary drama with, social issues right now. They want 90s action, horror, thriller, erotic, drama, etc. You're like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm possibly going to put this in a drawer for 6 months.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any of that business stuff at least floating in your peripheral vision, you're about to spend possibly hundreds or thousands of hours on what may or may not be a futile exercise that even if you make the movie, you might not make the money or accomplish the goals you want for that film, and then it's going to get buried somewhere.
Yeah, completely agree, man. That's another gold nugget I think you dropped. And I also had a question around marketing of which you just nailed. So I definitely appreciate all of those. I'm going to give you a scenario, and then I'd love to get your thoughts. I come to you for consulting. I have $500,000. What do we do? Is there a genre that you tell me that I should focus on? Is there a genre I should stay away from? Um, do I need to find out kind of what you just went through, the little exercise you just went through, like what the market might be yielding currently and what's maybe around the corner? Are there do we just take the money and focus on getting it in the can and then we worry about post? Do we use it to build a package and we don't film with the 500K? We simply use that as development funds and create some artwork. What do you think would be your play if you had 500K right now in today's market?
Um, that is another very nuanced question, but I guess to start from the top, if I had 500,000 right now, uh, I guess the first aspect you mentioned was genre. Um, right now, some of those genres I mentioned a couple minutes ago, there are mandates that essentially never go away. They are largely horror, thriller, suspense, mystery, action. Those you think it ebbs and flows. In 10 plus years, I've never heard anybody turn those genres away. I think part of the reason why that tends to remain true is that most of those storytelling and genre elements have a global appeal. Uh, you don't have to speak a language to understand terror or excitement or fear. Whereas there are contemporary dramas, comedies, documentaries, anything that gets very deeply rooted into a specific cultural moment, uh, that just don't translate in terms of foreign sales or global opportunities. I've had people with amazing sounding documentaries, which, docs are always different than scripted, but for the sake of the exercise, they're like, very powerful story about the water crisis in Michigan. I'm like, okay, great. You know who that's not appealing to? Anybody. America isn't dropping what they're doing to solve the water crisis in Michigan, which is one of many reasons why America is not in great shape right now. But avoiding that, if you can't make the rest of the country show up to a topic that's very American focused, why is somebody in Sweden or China or Australia going to have an emotional resonance to this subject matter? And the
Yeah.
short version is they're not. You
No.
can add a lot of A-list talent, you could add a lot of flashbang around the concept, but at the end of the day, it's not relevant to them. But those genre pieces are relevant. To go back to the scripted side and what I wouldn't do, and for my distribution background, independent comedy is probably the absolute hardest sale because if you don't have a recognizable person telling you that joke, the joke is somehow inherently less funny. You could have 12 of the funniest people from Groundlings or Improv or wherever you found them. But at the end of the day, every major comedy, except for the ones that are like a Napoleon Dynamite that breaks through and creates a star, you are giving them money because you're like, oh wow, Will Ferrell made a movie. Got it. Love it. Oh wow, Jenny Slate's in this movie. You take my money. You are going because somebody you know that is funny is going to make you laugh. And the let's make a funny movie and just hope that we make millions of dollars because we've got the greatest fart joke. In my experience, it virtually never works unless you magically are that one Napoleon Dynamite that also happened to go to Sundance and get large support from the studio system. And then they literally bought it and released it and then pretended it was their idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and dramas, unfortunately, just don't sell. I've had scripts that are packaged with A-list talent, award-winning nominated actors, and they're like, great, can you make this more action? Could you make it sexier? Could you make it scarier? Nobody wants, unfortunately, and it breaks my heart, is like nobody wants a contemporary Coen Brothers style drama. They want the guns and the bullets and the sex and the violence and all the other things because that's what's selling. Outside of those genre things, for me, I do think in 2025 right now, there's something to be said for if you can get a fully finished movie in the can, there is something to be said for walking into a sales company, sales agent, or distributor and say, I'm done. I don't need anything from you except for you to put this in all the places that movies go. Because the reality is right now, independent finance, independent sales, and all independent production are basically the worst that we've ever seen in at least our lifetimes.
Yeah.
So I think to be able to pivot the conversation and say, I'm not asking you for money, I'm asking you for opportunity, is a slightly powerful weapon in this exact moment in time. Um, that being said, if you were going to try to go the development route, I would not spend $500,000 on development, but I think there are things you could do to essentially manufacture the idea that you have IP, whether that's putting out a comic book, whether that's putting out a book, a short film, something that gets released that's out there, and then you get the sexy poster, you get the sexy actor attached, the great pitch deck, whatever that thing is and then say, here's the package for this IP film that needs lots more money than $500,000, but now you've got the IP and the shiny package.
Yeah.
But because it's 2025 and the system has been disrupted for 5 years now, there's also not a lot of people writing those bigger checks.
No, no, particularly from inside the industry. I'm in the DC Washington DC market, and so we have a lot of capital here, but they're not putting it into film. So I'm trying to come at it a different way, as I think many of us are. And you're right; those checks are definitely dried up. In fact, what do you see are some of the biggest problems indies are doing when they're needing funding? So, capital to me is not a problem, it's the problem. And I see some people trying to solve that problem, but I don't know that they're always going about it the right way. Are there any landmines or things that you are like, I don't know that they should be doing that, or I wouldn't do that kind of thing?
In terms of what the indie filmmaker is doing, I think the biggest thing I've seen, and it's been for years, is theoretically spending too much money or money on the wrong thing. One of my favorite anecdotes when I'm teaching a class or a panel or a podcast or whatever, years ago, I was at a film festival, great film festival. Um, don't want to say which one because this anecdote's so specific that the filmmakers would know that it's them. Uh, Went to a screening, great screening, little crime drama. They walk up to me and they're like, "Hey, what'd you think? Thought it was great. I think you guys are going to make money. This is clearly like a cakewalk to a $500,000 release. Good job." Like, "Oh, no, no, no. We spent $2 million on this movie." And I was like, "Oh, this where?" I was like, "It was not on screen. I have no idea where this money went. The only recognizable actor was a C-list actor and an Oscar nominee from about 50 years ago, who was not in a majority of the film, and the rest of the movie was essentially 6 to 8 people in a house."
Oh gosh.
So where that money went, I was like, I literally told, I was like, I hope you guys got massages and caviar every day on set because you will never see $2 million out of this film. Um, and because their budget was so high, it impacted what kind of deal they had to try to pursue and take.
Course. Yeah.
So years later, the film has actually still never been released.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
sitting on a shelf somewhere because if
No.
they were to walk in and a distributor's like, "I'll give you $10,000,
Yeah.
MG, let's go, let's get this movie out." Taking a $10,000 MG on a $2 million movie already indicates to your investors and to the rest of the team that there's no way that this thing is ever going to win.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I don't think the biggest issues in the film industry right now are the filmmakers' fault. What drives me absolutely insane is all these trades, producer Patrick, all these people are saying the wrong parts out loud, which is the streamers have ruined the independent finance and the independent sales plan. So I'm going out there. I've got a packaged film, $2 million. We've got six major stars attached. Not billion-dollar box office. They don't have Oscars, but let's say they've got Emmys and Golden Globe nominations.
Yeah.
$2 million movie. Independent sales wants you to have the $5 million cast, but they only want to pay you $1 million because they're adverse to risk. But the issue that nobody's talking about is the streamers don't pay back end to actors. So you hear about all these large budget Netflix movies where Chris Evans got $30 million or $50 million or whatever the hell for this terrible movie that nobody liked. Now all these actors who are getting these large upfront checks think that that is what they are worth, and that's what everybody should pay them, not realizing that streamers are an exception, not a rule. So you go out, you get your actor, you find the world's greatest actor, you agree to pay him $1 million, and you turn around and the independent sales company says that this actor is only worth $300,000. And you're like, well, I can't pay him $200,000 so that I get the $300,000 value. They won't work for less than $1 million. And that's because the streamers inflated them past the point of their worth. So when you're trying to build your finance plan, which is largely dictated by your sales plan, all of these different columns of numbers are no longer speaking to one another. And unfortunately, the pressure comes to the agents and the actors to say, if you want to work this is the offer you're getting. Are you willing to do this? Or would you rather not work under the assumption that there is another Netflix movie or White Lotus or Marvel movie in your future?
Right.
And we were going out for that crime drama, great package. The only role we were missing was our lead. It was like a 50 plus male role. So we went out to every indie cool guy dad that you could think of. Every single one of them is like, I'm gonna wait for a TV show, wait to see if I get White Lotus or a Marvel movie. And like, we only need you for 2 weeks. Some of our offers were up to $1 million. Like,
Wow.
we need you for 10 days for $1 million. Will you do this movie? And like, no, because if I do get a Netflix movie, I'll get $3 million. And like, nobody's saying it's either or. We
Yeah.
will we will set our shoot date
Yeah.
around your schedule. You just have to want to work on this project for 2 mil or for 2 weeks for $1 million. And they're like, no, why would I do two jobs for $4 million? I'll just wait and see if one job pays me $4 million.
Unbelievable. Wow.
So it just, it's the industry. It's not the tax credits in California. It's not Gavin Newsom. It's not any of the other things that all these clickbaity articles are being like, here's what's wrong. It's the fact that everybody is working off of a different set of numbers. None of those numbers talk to each other. And unfortunately, the reason why no indie filmmaker and most actors aren't working right now is nobody's willing to put their ego aside and just try to work for the sake of working.
Yeah. Yeah. Another great point. In your mind, does star power still matter?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the only thing that matters now. Um, the issue becomes, can you afford the right star power into the right package to actually come up with a semi-coherent finance or sales plan?
Yeah.
So I've got many friends that I've worked with on recent projects that are TV stars, 200 hours of broadcast TV, 20 million social media followers. We've tried doing a low budget horror movie where we got like 15 of them all in the same room at the same time. And we're like, cool, is that worth $1 million in sales right now? And people like, maybe.
Wow.
And you're just like, so like nobody wants to take the risk on anything, which, risk is scary, sure, but film has always been a high risk industry. And now nobody wants to take the risk, but they literally won't talk to you unless you have some kind of name that makes their job easier. Because everybody wants to walk into either Berlin, AFM, Cannes, TIFF, etc., and just say, hey, we've got the next blank movie. This actor is worth $500,000 in Portugal. And then they make that deal over a 15-minute conversation and they walk away and the job's done. And it's like that's realistically how sales works. They're like, well, I've sold four Dermot Mulroney movies last year, so now I know what Dermot Mulroney's worth, so I'm gonna go try to sell four more of them this year because why would I want to learn how to sell a different actor? And
Yeah.
that's how back in the day when it was functional, you'd see the same 12 actors in every movie at Redbox. Those people were making those movies for the same budget with the same actor and rinse and repeating because everybody could do that math on the back of a napkin and know that it was good.
Yeah.
And I think right now we're all looking for how do we get back to napkin math? And somehow the distributors and sales companies are, going back to my little formulas, like they want the $5 million cast in a $2 million movie that they only have to pay $1 million for. And it doesn't take a lot of mathematicians to realize that that math doesn't math.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. And it seems like it's getting worse on top of it. What would be your ideal project? If someone came to you with a project, how do you gauge if a project is going to be successful and what would get you excited about a project to potentially be a part of?
It's fully funded and fully packaged. Um, No, I mean, people are constantly reaching out to me on LinkedIn or email or wherever the hell they're finding me. Um, but it's very easy to tell from a mile away if the package makes sense. What the things I would look at are like, what budget do you think this is? What genre are you trying to tell? Does the log line pique my interest quickly? And is there any packaging or any work done? Or are you literally showing up like Oliver Twist with an empty bowl and saying, please, sir, I'd like some more, which is basically just code for you find me all the money and make my dreams come true, and maybe I'll take care of you on the back end.
Exactly.
Um, so it's just, it's knowing the right budget level. It's like, what would this sell for? What is it? What type of story are you trying to sell? Are you trying to do four people in a room, but somehow you think it costs $20 million? Or do you think there's 20 characters in outer space, but you think you could do it for $100,000? Like, there's two sides of the coin to be like, does your budget reflect the type of story you are trying to tell? Because at the end of the day, you also have to actually make it through production and it has to look good. Um, or if you're wildly off base on any one of those elements, it's pretty easy to tell pretty quickly after you've seen 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 packages in your life to be like, oh, this is going to be a problem. So the thing you don't want to be on day one is the negative Nancy coming in and telling people that there's something inherently wrong with something that they're wildly passionate about because it's their baby.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, if you start to have some of those pieces, even for me as an independent producer, you see the opportunity to say, oh, that train could leave the station in a week and a half if you just had these one or two extra pieces in place. Um, and it's like, wow, that would be fun to be the guy who gets the train to leave the station because you actually gave me all the pieces. It's another thing to see a train and be like, oh wow, there's nobody on the train, there's no seats, and there's no coal in the engine. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, that's a lot of heavy lifting for one conductor to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
and the odds that it's gonna work before somebody's ego or attitude comes into play are slim to none.
Yeah. A lot of
I don't
great.
know. I feel like that answered part of the question, but
Oh, no, that's good. Yeah. That's definitely good. I mean, the illustration is a good point. And what I find, and I don't have the skill set or a resume that you do, and I get people pinging me, and it's the old, I have this great idea. I'll give you the idea, you write and go make the movie, and then we'll split it 50-50.
yeah,
It's like these crazy. The first thing I tell, one of the things I started to do to weed people out is say, hey, this is great. If you come with 30% of the budget, then I can get involved. And that has tend to kind of be like, it gives people something to do and focus on where I'm not also dismissing them.
yeah.
Um,
And I do feel like I feel like 20 times in a row I'm like, do the work for me, do the work for me, like be smart, know your business plan. I would love to find the next I saw the TV glow or Marcel the Shell or something where just like the creative vision was just so wildly astounding that the page is practically vibrating. It
yeah,
just, the reality isn't, I'm a writer. Like, I don't know that I've written one that I could say, vibrates off the page the way that like a true auteur, uh, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but Jane, the writer director of I Saw the TV Glow, like there is such a singular vision there. But she also like she didn't just appear magically with I Saw the TV Glow. She did shorts, she did other things. She did things that hit the festival circuit that let people know if you get out of her way, she's going to do something completely astounding. so that, by the time somebody saw I See the TV Glow, and I'm sure it reads very well on paper, but you're just like, wow, this story with this vision, with this auteur is like, if we do give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, this could change film or independent film or whatever pontification you want to make. Is like, I would love to have one of those. We all think we have one, and the reality is, unfortunately, we don't all have one. I don't
Yep.
know if I have one. I don't know if you have one,
Hmm.
because it just takes so much to be that person. And
Yeah.
it actually reminds me, there's this amazing article, I believe Hollywood Reporter did years ago. Ben Zeitlin, the director of Beasts of the Southern Wild. Everybody's like, who the hell is this guy? He came out of nowhere. He went to Sundance. Beast got nominated for something like 5 Oscars, made Kavanjane Wallace a star, all these great things. And Hollywood Reporter is like, whoa, 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 whoa. He didn't come out of nowhere. He spent 10 years coming out of nowhere. He had like 8 shorts that went to 46 festivals. He got on people's radar to the point where one of the programmers at Sundance was like, hey, if you ever make a feature, I want to be the first one to see it. I've been watching you for X number of years. You're insane. I love you. Like, I want to help you. And he's like, funny you mention it. I just got the money together to make this crazy little bayou, fantastical, surreal drama. I would love to show it to you. Bing, bang, boom. A year later, it's at Sundance, whatever the timeline was. But it's like nobody comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. No.
It's like this article broke it down the most succinctly that I've ever seen, that truly, like, coming out of nowhere takes a decade of strategy.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. It's the 10-year overnight success situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you see indies and creatives blowing it, and where do you see Hollywood blowing it? So Hollywood messing up and the us indies messing up. Where do you see those things?
I mean, the studio answer is way easier. They're throwing too much money at the wrong people, to a borderline sickening degree. I believe it was the American Fiction screenwriter that won the Oscar and said, like, stop making $100 million movies, make
Oh yeah,
$25 million
great.
movies.
That was
It's
great.
like there's so many articles that you read now where you're like, this fantastic film bombed because it cost $80 million, but it needs to gross $400 million to break even.
Yeah,
Thunderbolts Marvel movie. That movie was fantastic. There is not a single thing wrong with it, except every Marvel movie now practically needs to make 500 million to $1 billion to even break even, let alone be called a hit. So
yeah,
when it only opened to 80 or whatever,
right.
you're like, well, what a colossal failure. Let's kick Marvel and Kevin Feige while they're down. You're like, no. Well, yes, but no, because it's not the movie's fault. It's not the director's fault. It's not the actor's fault. Nobody asked for a $300 million P&A budget. So, like, they need to stop spending money on stuff like this. Like, the Russo brothers and Electric State on Netflix was, I think, 250 to 300 million. It was terrible. Nobody cares because the whole point of Netflix is that movies come and go literally every week. So why, let's say it's 300 million because I went to art school and I suck at math. You could have made 30 $10 million movies, and I guarantee you 5 of them would have been wildly more successful than the Electric State would have been, and the other 25 would have done just fine. But somehow in their head, they're like, the only way to make people care is to spend all of the money on one big thing, knowing that A, it's not really going to make people subscribe to Netflix, which used to be how they gauge success. They're like, ooh, 3 million people signed up the week that Gilmore Girls came out. Therefore, Gilmore Girls made that money and it's a hit. And you're like, no, that's if we're already on Netflix, we're on Netflix. Like, so there's no metric for success. So why wouldn't you have 30 movies let's say that's 60 hours worth of content for the price that you spend on one movie with 2 hours worth of content. It's like that math is just insane.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it because not that many people really like Chris Pratt or Millie Bobby Brown to make that movie a hit because Netflix can't have a hit. Like, there's no metrics that make a hit on Netflix other than this was number one on the Netflix top 10 for 4 weeks. And you're like, that doesn't even happen now. And when it does happen, it's a 10-year-old studio film that people are acting like they just discovered for the first time. So it's not even a Netflix movie that's a hit. It's like I just saw Copycat from like 1995 was the top of the Netflix chart. You know, like I bet they licensed that movie for probably $500,000 from the studio.
Yeah.
You're like, great, there's your hit. Do that. In terms of the indie filmmakers, I right now, I don't know if we could do anything right or wrong. Like, nobody's making anything, nobody's working, nobody wants to give us money. So, all we can do is try to be scrappier and more determined. And my personal hope is that the pendulum swings back to the way it worked in the 90s when the Sundance indie mentality really kind of took over. And we said, screw it, we're going to do it our way without permission and sort of shove it down your throats. And then when the studio system realizes they could be making money off it again, all of a sudden we're going to come full circle back to, oh, hey, this guy might be the next Tarantino. Oh, hey, this guy might be the next Michel Gondry or Darren Aronofsky or any of those people. Is like, we need to rediscover some Mavericks. And the
Yeah.
system is currently, and hasn't been for years, set up to really encourage that outside of A24 and Neon.
Yeah.
But
No.
also they've got pretty high walls and ivory towers over there. Because
Yeah.
once they find their auteurs, they're like, great, you're our auteur, you can't
Yeah.
go in.
Exactly. No, they're smart about it. Very business savvy. Do you have any life-changing or I don't know about life-changing, but career-changing books, training, or workshops, or even videos that you would recommend for filmmakers slash entrepreneurs?
I'm not a big save the cat screenplay film industry book person, but I will say my favorite book I've probably ever read about the industry is called Shock Value,
Hmm.
and it traces about seven or eight of the best horror films in all time, and how they basically all started between a feud of college friends. So I'm paraphrasing, so it's not going to be perfect, but it literally is like George Lucas, Dan O'Bannon, and somebody else, Toby Hooper and somebody were basically all working on a thesis project in film school in LA. They had a disagreement on gore versus suspense. Uh, John Carpenter was one of them. So Carpenter was like, "Screw you! I'm gonna go make Halloween for, no money. It's all suspense." And somebody said, "Screw you! I'm gonna go make this other movie, Texas Chainsaw," and went super gory. And somebody took part of their thesis because what it was, the thesis project was a vague remake of The Thing from Another World. And then John Carpenter went and made The Thing
Yeah.
and basically went back on his suspense versus gore mentality. So Dan O'Bannon got mad and came up with the idea for Alien on the toilet because he also had Crohn's disease or something. He's like, well, screw you. I'm going to make my version of The Thing from Another World, and it's called Alien. So it's just, I did a horrible job at summarizing this, but it literally tracks Halloween, Alien, The Thing, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and like three other iconic horror movies, and how they are all very direct, sometimes spiteful reactions to what the other guy was doing.
How
And
funny.
that's the most realistic depiction of the film industry I've probably ever seen, is we're all driven by one really good idea, a lot of ego and a lot of spite, and then we just hope to make it before the other guy does.
Yeah, exactly.
Outside of that, I'm a fan of watch every movie, read other books, look for source material in unlikely places, find your inspiration, and then make it your own.
Yeah. No, I definitely like that. Would you, if you were talking to a young person today, film school, yes or no?
I would love to say education's important, but if I could get the money back that I spent on film school, I would spend that time interning, working on set, networking, and actually getting my hands dirty. That being said, I went for writing and film studies. I have no interest in directing, so my courses did not involve cameras, editing, or any technical skill. So if you want to do something technical, you need to learn how to do technical things. If you are trying to be a writer, producer, actor, etc., I think the best thing you could do is go out there, start working, start networking, and live your life to the fullest because that is where you're going to pull all of your best resources from. It's going to be your best inspiration and it's going to make you a better, more articulate and mature person that people actually want to hire and bring onto a film set.
Yeah. I,
School is basically book club.
yeah. Yeah. And I also think it's probably a lot different than when you went in, is that I'm seeing now that once everyone realized it's a business, as in school's a business, and that, oh, we can do, create our own film program, and this creates another revenue stream for us. Suddenly, every college, university out there has a film school, and I don't know that all of them should. So,
No, they definitely shouldn't.
yeah,
And the thing that drives me crazy is even the good ones very rarely have more than a week or two. Like, oh yeah, by the way, here's the business of film.
yeah,
It's like you could spend 3.5 years learning how to write a movie, shoot a movie, or edit a movie. And then like, by the way, for 3 weeks before graduation, here's a crash course on marketing and distribution. Anyway, here's your diploma. Thanks, bye.
yeah, exactly. I every time I get asked, which is not often, but when I do get asked to speak at a college, I always talk about the business side of things. And invariably, every time I have students come up to say, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard this stuff." And I'm not talking anything profound here, Sean. I'm not coming up with Ron's unique thing. This is just basic stuff, and they just have not been taught it. And these are like
Yeah.
senior, which is crazy.
I have friends that literally they're like they went to writing school, they went to film school, they went to whatever. They've got 8 shorts, and they still message me, and they're like in their mid to late 30s, early 40s, and like, what's the best way to query a distributor? What does a distributor do? What kind of terms should I be looking for? Like, there was just quite literally no baseline education on anything other than you make a movie, you lock picture, you submit to a festival, and you pray.
Yeah, and you hope for the best.
And
Exactly.
you're like, oh, and I guess maybe the argument is because they want to leave a world where sales agents and distributors and people can sort of earn their keep by knowing more than everybody. But the only way I've gotten anywhere in the industry is being basically half right-brained and half left-brained. Is like I can simultaneously write the story and go into a room and tell you why the story makes financial, business, distribution, sales sense as well.
Yeah,
And it's really easy to walk into almost any festival, networking event, panel, whatever. And I usually am one of the only people, if not the only person in the room that can even have part of that conversation, which
yeah.
is great for me because it makes me look like a friggin' unicorn, but it makes me feel really bad for the people who spent couple $100,000 on their education and then God knows how much money possibly on their thesis project.
No, absolutely.
And they're still sitting there being like, great, so my thesis film will get into Sundance and then I'll sell it to Netflix and then I'll win an Oscar. And you're like, no.
Yeah.
It's like I could tell you the 37 things that are wrong with that, or just no.
Exactly. Um, so what are you working on now and what are you working on next? What do you have lined up? What's kind of in your pipeline?
So as of today, I'm in post-production on a feature called X's that we shot in LA. I guess ironically during the fires. So we're wrapping up color correction this week, next week, and getting it out to distributors. I am in production on an animated TV pilot called Public Domain that we independently financed. We actually crowdfunded most of that.
Oh, cool.
And we have 15 TV stars in it. So our vision for that is to fully do the pilot as a proof of concept and then bring it to the networks and the streamers because we want to be like, this is what it looks like, sounds like, and smells like, as opposed to read the script and look at a pitch deck and I hope you understand. Um, and after that, I'm just looking for the next opportunity, whether it's money to make a movie, selling a project, getting paid to write. It's like right now, I genuinely don't know anybody that is consistently working. So it's looking for those opportunities and hoping they're under a rock somewhere, whether it's branded content or short films or, you know, winning the lottery and selling something. It's hard out there. And honestly, it's hard to stay motivated to keep writing more content on spec because I basically know that there's no buyers out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So it's
that's kind of flames out. Yep.
yeah, the vision is keeping the roof over my head and waiting to see. I truly believe the pendulum will swing back. It just nobody could say when, and nobody's 100% sure what it'll look like when it does swing back.
That's very
So,
well said. Yep.
yeah, everybody I talk to has generally accepted the mentality of, and these are, SAG actors, DGA directors, everybody's like, this is now the time where you have to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Whether you can scrape money together, shoot something for free, it's like to be able to say you made a thing while nobody else is making anything is hopefully a powerful tool, but it means it's very much all on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the mentality going forward for a long time. I'm just hoping that that evolves back into that 90s Sundance guerrilla mumblecore mentality that did become a business model for a long time.
Yeah. Yep. I could see that. Where can people find you if people do want to reach out? What's the best way to find you, support you? Can get
Oh man. Well, Public Domain has an Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, all the socials at Public Domain Series. All my personal socials are at Sean T. Flanagan or Sean Thomas Flanagan. Find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, all of those things. And I love talking to indie filmmakers. It's not always fun being the negative Nancy in the room.
No, it's not. But I do think it's the climate that we're currently in, and I don't think people are blind to it. So I think sometimes a bit of honesty is important. I do believe in, we need people to also help us light the way, which I also think that you have the ability in the means to do it. So I think that's a important thing that you offer that not a lot of people do in a rather dark time that we all kind of find ourselves in.
Yeah, I think we have to collaborate. We have to lift each other up, empower each other, be transparent with one another. There are companies out there that we won't name, but they're happy. They'll take your money and be like, "Oh yeah, we'll totally develop this for you and we'll get you a deal and we'll do this, but you have to pay us thousands of dollars up front." And it's like there are people that will lie and take your money and tell you that everything's going to be okay, but the reality is they don't actually have any answers that we don't.
Yeah.
They're just not being transparent or collaborative.
Yeah.
They're they're in it for whatever dollars they could find because they're more worried about keeping their lights on than yours.
Exactly.
So
No,
I think just choose your allies carefully and find people that do lift you up, but hopefully are slightly realistic and pragmatic about the state of the world that we're in.
yeah. That's a great way to put it, and a great way to come to an end and a conclusion. Well, I appreciate you watching, listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment just to let us know that you're out there. So Sean and I know we didn't just have a unique one-on-one conversation, but it's also benefiting others. It also does help out the channel, as people know. But I believe we are good to conclude our discussion with Sean Flanagan. And remember, nothing is wasted. Thanks for watching.